This is Kirby, designed by Chris Borge I. This particular Kirby is a desktop solder fume extractor. I recently bought a roll of Creality's rainbow filament, and I wanted a fun project to print with it. And this happened to fit the need for that. I sent the parts to the printer and started printing. Of course, in the excitement, I forgot to put in the settings for supports. By sheer luck, the print finished without any problems, but the next few parts that needed supports got the support they needed. While I put all the other parts on the printer, let's paint the eyes. Now, Chris had the luxury of multicolor 3D printing. I unfortunately do not have that, and borrowed my sister's nail polish and started painting. Using the brush, I went ahead to paint the blue and white for Kirby's eyes. After that layer dried, I went ahead to paint a clear coat, which made the eyes a little bit more glossy. There were a few parts that I accidentally overbrushed, so I went back with a Q-tip to take some of the nail polish out. It didn't completely take it out due to the 3D printed rough surface, but it did help a little bit if you looked at it from a distance. It took about 10 hours of printing to get all of the parts. Once everything was test fitted, it was on to the gluing process. Kirby's eyes ended up being a little bit wider at the bottom, so after trimming it with a box knife, I was able to snap it in place. Because Kirby's face was a little rough, I chose not to glue the eyes in place just yet, just in case I wanted to reprint it. Next, I placed in the magnets. I didn't want to worry about the polarities accidentally getting mixed up, so I glued one magnet to one side and then stacked the magnet for the other side on top of the already glued magnets. I ended up finishing this off camera because I was a little impatient about letting the glue dry. One thing different I did from Chris's design was that I'm gluing in 1/4-inch bolts for the arms. As much as I love Chris's design, there's a few changes I'd like to make for my Kirby. So for now, until I figure out what I want, I glued in 1/4-inch bolts to make it somewhat more modular, and I can make multiple arms for different projects. Everything is looking great so far, except the moral of the story about this project: measure twice. Yes, especially if you're not using the same parts as the original design, make sure your parts actually matches the original model. Or you'll be doing a lot of modifications, which we'll be doing soon. Except I didn't have to make those modifications. Luckily, I had a fan in my garage that fit Kirby, So I soldered a power supply to it and used that fan. Another nice feature of this new fan is that it had built-in LEDs, so it gave a little bit of a bright side to the situation. Another thing about this fan is that it had two separate cables for power. While I did strip the main power supply to the fan, I left the smaller connector to use it as a possible power auxiliary for future electronics that I might be able to connect with Kirby, such as the LED, maybe an extra fan, but I wanted to leave that as an extra option. It was after wrapping up the wire was then I realized I could have added a switch to control the fan. Oh well, I guess we'll have to leave that for next time. With Kirby all together now, I turned on the fan, and the LED fan definitely adds a nice touch to Kirby. You might notice at the moment, I also don't have the right size filter, or at least the right trimmed out filter. It's still somewhere in my garage, and once I do find it, I'll be putting it in Kirby. Other than a small 3D printing defect on Kirby's face, I'd say overall the project went pretty well. For future reference, make sure you print both sides facing upwards like this. The LED fan, although maybe not as powerful as the fan I intended to use, gave a little bit more of a fun aesthetic about Kirby. While I don't have the arms currently printed, these 1/4-inch bolts will be ready when the arms are. As much as I like Chris's designs, there's a few changes I'd like to do to make Kirby's arms a little bit more handy than they are right now. A few add-ons that I was thinking about includes a LED lamps, tool holder, and most recently, this mantis clamp that I found on Printable. If you guys think of any other fun gadgets that Kirby might be able to use, leave in the comments. But for now, this will conclude the project until we get the arms. We'll see you next time.